It's finally here. The day has come that we will all get our hands on Bethesda's new epic adventure, Starfield. For years, people have anticipated this new world from one of the most accredited game developers in the industry. For nearly a decade, the gaming ecosystem has waited to see what this new universe will hold for those who explore it. It is finally here. Starfield. Keep in mind, I'll be posting some raw gameplay as a companion to this first impression. It will be linked in this video, the description, and the pinned comment below. Make sure to check that out as well, as it can give you an even better feel for this game. Of course, no plot or story spoilers will be involved. I was lucky enough to get a review copy early from Bethesda. This is something that surprised me for many of the same reasons it surprised some of you. Much of my content is focused on the classic Fallout games and Fallout New Vegas, so many people expected Bethesda to skip me when handing out review codes. This wasn't the case. Bethesda has been incredibly generous and kind to me this past month, and I have seen a few comments stating that this will make my review of Starfield compromised in some way. And to a degree, I imagine there's truth to that. When a person or company does something nice for you personally, you tend to think better of them for doing so. Something I want to state before the video starts is that I purchased the Constellation edition of Starfield when it was announced. I then purchased a digital premium edition for my Steam account, as that is the platform I like to use when recording my videos on PC. So at this point, before Bethesda sent me a review code, I had already purchased Starfield twice, with one of the purchases being the most you can spend on it. I had already planned to cover Starfield extensively, and I assure you that you are getting the same first impressions you would have had Bethesda not sent me a review code. You are just getting the video far earlier due to me being able to play it a few weeks before release. To appease some people watching this video, I will break kayfabe a bit here and cut to the chase. There will be no story spoilers past the beginning of the game in this video, though I will be speaking on some minor side quests. For those of you who are wondering if Starfield is good, yes, it is. If that's all you wanted to know, I may have saved you some time from watching all these YouTube videos. I've been a fan of Bethesda games since Fallout 3, and I've returned to them to get 100% in Oblivion, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Skyrim, and Fallout 4. And before you hit the comments, yes, I'm very aware that Obsidian developed Fallout New Vegas, Bethesda published it, but what I'm referring to as a Bethesda game is the games that take place in their creation engine and are released or published by them. I have close to 1,000 hours into Fallout 76, and though it's not really my cup of tea, I feel like that's more than enough time to understand the game fully. I have played Starfield for 60 hours at the time of this recording. I can honestly say that Starfield is my favorite game Bethesda has ever produced. And in this video, I will tell you why. This is my first impressions of Starfield. Before we really jump into things, I want to say that I have completed the main quest. Typically, I would not have rushed through that bit the way that I did, but I had seen the likes of Phil Spencer saying that the game didn't really start until you finished the main quest. Starfield writer and designer Emil Pagliarulo stated that he was on his 90th playthrough, with Bethesda Senior Vice President of Global Marketing and Communications, Pete Hines, making similar claims. I kept seeing things like this while I was playing through Starfield, so my curiosity got the better of me to know why these guys had so many playthroughs, but were also stating that the game hadn't really started until once that bit was completed. And after playing through it, I see the truth in their statements, and that should only excite you to begin your journey in this universe. At 60 hours, I feel like I have a good understanding of what Starfield is, but not everything that is going on inside of its game world. I still find myself going through major locations in the game and finding things I didn't see when I was there before, and quests I had no idea Bethesda was capable of. Starfield starts with our character, the Spacefarer, being instructed on their mining duties with Argos extractors. Starfield starts much faster than previous Bethesda games. We spend very little time in the mines before we find an artifact buried deep within the ground, with gravitational anomalies surrounding the area.
Do you see anything?
Come on. Okay, take it easy. You were out cold. No physical damage. Mentally, the jury's still out. You know who you are? New recruit for Argos Extractors? Ring any bells? Any of this look familiar?
It's from here we are able to create our character, and this section is everything you expect it to be. You can alter your appearance any way you would like, and to me, Starfield offers the most player customization we have seen from Bethesda. Moving on to our background, we have a ton of choices to make. You can choose from a variety of different starting skills that help you build the type of character you're looking for, and with the addition of traits, you can also form a backstory for your spacefarer that's just your cup of tea. It's nice to get a head start on some of these skills and extra options from traits, as Starfield works slightly different than past Bethesda games. When you level up, you are awarded one skill point, and the skill point can be used to increase your ranking in said skills. However, most of these upgrades are locked behind challenges, and these challenges must be completed in order to lock the next upgraded skill. For example, if I spec into weightlifting to increase my carry weight, I will need to sprint with a 75% full inventory for a certain amount of time before I can level it up again. To me, it felt like a mixture of the Elder Scrolls and Fallout when it came to the leveling system. You get experience points from finding locations, completing quests, and doing challenges. However, you still have to develop your skills to improve them. It works well. We get our first taste of a firefight right after the mines when Barrett leads a party of pirates to the launch pad. Combat in Starfield feels like an improved Fallout 4. Shooting guns has weight and feels chunky when it needs to. With a huge variety of weapons, it's fun to see which ones you like as you travel through the world. Melee combat works exactly how you think it does, and it follows the same system we have seen in previous Bethesda games. Of course, upgrading your skills and using melee in-game will unlock new and more effective abilities, and you can see yourself get better and better as you go.
I need some help here! My head! Oh my God! You're gonna pay for that! Cover me! Your head down! Somebody cover me! Damn! They're gone!
I can go on and on about the things that work in Starfield, about how much I love the game world and how immersive the experience has been so far, but a lot of you are probably wondering if I have anything negative to report about my experience. And the answer is yes. The problems I have with Starfield are few and far between. I think it's a terrific RPG with an enormous and interesting open world. That being said, there are some things missing that we've come to expect in Bethesda games. Most of these things are small, like an in-game date. I looked for a very long time in many different menus to find an in-game date, and it's simply not there. This could be because of the grand scale of the game. It isn't really necessary. For example, we go to many different planets and even star systems, so who knows how to calculate all those dates? My argument for this is that there is a universal time set next to every local time that we see. This means that we could have had just some kind of universal date, but this is a really small problem. Some NPCs talk about their birthdays and measure time in years, but we don't see past the beginning of the game what date it is while we're playing. Another shocking thing for me was the absence of underwater swimming. Like in most Bethesda games, we can jump in the water and swim around, but trying to dive beneath the surface will just result in floating in one spot. Though I can understand why underwater exploration was left out of Starfield. We have an entire universe to explore with close to 1,000 planets in it. Some cities like Neon are built on an ocean planet and are powered by the lightning that happens during their constant sea storms. If you could land there and swim under the ocean, that is a whole nother map that needs to be created when most players would likely not even notice. Many people probably don't even have the desire to swim around in this game world. But it does not end up ruling out extraordinary alien water life to check out, as some planets have coastal biomes that host marine life. One of the things I have seen being thrown around is how traveling works in Starfield, and some seem disappointed by some elements of it. When out in space, I find it impossible to just fly to a planet without using the map. When setting course for a planet and eventually traveling to it, they seem to put your ship about 17 to 20 flight hours away, that's in real life hours by the way, from the planet, and when you do reach a close limit, it seems to stay at one distance like an invisible wall is blocking you. So I gave up trying to reach planets without using the star map, which is pretty much fast traveling. Once you do get on a planet, you are not free to walk all the way around it and end up back where you started. There seems to be some confusion out there about what was said by Bethesda in regard to walking around a planet. When you land, you are free to explore the area you have landed in. When I say the area, I mean a very large portion of a game map that is loaded in around you. If you travel too far, you are asked to turn around, go to your ship, or travel to a new area. While this may seem disappointing to some of you, as it was for me a little bit, I can confirm that it took me 10 minutes of full sprinting without stopping using God mode before I saw this boundary, and it only happened when I was looking for it. When playing Starfield the way I had for the entirety of my 60 hours, I never once saw this boundary notification. In a way, I like the idea because then I can be sure that I searched an entire area to my heart's content before moving on. It's hard to stress just how big Starfield is, and until you get your hands on it, you may not grasp the size and scale of this game. When you get a chance to travel to the planets for yourself and see how much is offered, the boundaries make a little more sense, but I imagine more than a few people will have an issue with this. A lot of people have also asked about bugs when it comes to Starfield. Bethesda has a reputation for their games being more than a bit buggy on release, and this is another area that Starfield differs from past Bethesda releases. There were a few bugs, but nothing game-breaking. Anyone who says that they saw nothing, I doubt a little bit, but nothing that broke any part of my game. I would say the biggest I saw was NPCs losing their hair, and this was fixed by reloading my save and has only shown up a handful of times. Overall, I think Starfield is the least buggy Bethesda game on launch, and the extra time they took to polish the game really shows, even in the pre-release version that I had the chance to play. It's worth noting that I played Starfield on PC using Steam. I have not tried the Xbox Series X version of the game. It's also worth noting that I bought a beast of a PC in anticipation of Starfield. I have a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4090 in my rig, and I run Starfield at 4K 60 plus FPS, ultra settings, and it's smooth as butter. However, capturing footage of Starfield proved interesting, as for some reason my file sizes doubled from their normal size, and recording in 4K seemed out of the question, as during gameplay everything seemed fine, but watching it back caused it to be choppy and stuttery. I'm satisfied with the quality I was able to achieve though. That's it. Those are the only negative things that I personally have to say about Starfield. There are some things that need some work, but as we move forward, Bethesda has proved that they work on the things that I referred to. I love the story, the factions, the lore that I've found so far, and the companions are some of the best I've seen in a Bethesda game. During my playthrough, I hung around Constellation lead Sarah Morgan. She has a storied past and trust issues, but more so with herself. I found myself caring about her opinion far more than any other companion I have ever had in any game. Eventually, our relationship matured to the point where we decided to get married. I met Sarah's mother and was actually excited to do so. I helped her overcome powerful memories of the colony wars, and she kept me on a path of exploration and even guided some of my decisions in other quests. I felt an actual connection with Sarah, and I'm hoping to see the same connection when I hang out with some of the other companions more. Starfield lets you decide if you are showing romantic interest or not, so you can reach a maximum relationship with any of the companions by doing things that they like, akin to Fallout 4, and then using friendship or flirt lines during their story-based dialogue. This is a system that I like a lot, and I look forward to getting to know everyone better. I spent some time with Sam Coe, who reminds me of a sci-fi John Marston, but he is charming and seems like a good guy. I just spent nearly every minute with Sarah, so she is really my only frame of reference at this time of the recording. Something else I didn't spend a whole lot of time with is the ship building mode. I upgraded the ships that I had, but I never bought any or went into the customization suite and went to work. From what I have experienced with it, it seemed like it would be a fun time for people looking to build their own ships, and I am hoping for some kind of easy to share feature where we can share our ship creations and then they can be downloaded like how mods in Fallout 4 and Skyrim work. This is the same for Outpost Building, though I did dabble with it a bit more than I did spaceship crafting. Again, from what I played of this feature, it works exactly how you would expect. It feels more like Fallout 76 than it does Fallout 4, and in this aspect, that is a good thing. One of the biggest strengths that Fallout 76 has is the building feature, and Starfield expands on this. We unlock different things for our outposts with specific skills, but the basics work just fine, which include resource gatherers and ship connections, so these resources flow directly into your ship when you land. The most of what I did in my time with Starfield was explore. Sometimes I would land on a planet and survey everything I could, scanning all of the plants and animals that were marked as important. In Starfield, you don't land on a planet and scan every single thing like you might expect. Instead, harvestable plants and resources can be examined, along with most wildlife that you come across. A planet will usually have 2 to 6 resources, a handful of scannable flora, and then some fauna species that are roaming around that we can check out. Resources only need to be scanned once, but flora and fauna will need to be scanned several times in order to be marked as 100% and give you all of the info on the subject. The amount of times you have to scan these things can be lowered when upgrading your skills. Most everything you do in the game can be improved by specializing in that related skill. This includes scanning planets, researching craftable items, or even piloting your spaceship. Stealth is another thing that works just slightly differently than it has in other Bethesda games. I haven't spec'd into it at all, but in order to even have a stealth gauge, you have to level up the stealth skill at least once. Without it, you won't see the standard hidden or detected text, and I'm pretty sure enemies will notice you pretty much immediately, even when you're crouched. I like this system for sneaking around. You need to rank your skill up to take advantage of the stealth mechanics, which shows by NPCs noticing you far more quickly. Through my experience, I find myself getting distracted by the many things Starfield has to offer. Sometimes I would hit the mission boards, which seem to provide you with radiant quests, like taking out an enemy ship or delivering resources to another planet. Most major human settlements have these mission boards around somewhere. It can be a lot of fun doing deliveries, making some credits, and starting a chain with every planet you land on just by taking a new job at the next board. When it comes to space combat with ships and such, Starfield is really my first experience with this. I have never been in a firefight in No Man's Sky, and this is really the only game I have played that would feature something like that. I like the way it feels. On PC, you use the mouse to steer, so wherever the reticle is placed is where your ship will be headed. It's very easy to get the hang of. I imagine I'm not the best at space combat, but I hold my own just fine. This is another part of the game that I haven't really invested my skill points into, but once you do, it looks like the unlocks are pretty decent. You send power to different parts of your ship, like the primary weapons, secondary weapons, engine, and grav drive. Doing so will increase their efficiency, and finding a power balance makes coming across battles a little more tense. There were a lot of people who asked me about how the choices felt in-game. I do not want to get into any spoiler territory here, but I can say from my perspective, I found myself, more than a couple of times, really thinking about what my next choice was going to be. This could be because I thought my companion Sarah might think poorly of a choice, or because I really couldn't come to a clear-cut solution. There were times in Starfield when I made choices in side quests that I thought about long after, wondering if I had done the right thing, and that is precisely how I want to feel in a role-playing game. This isn't to say that there are no easy choices. Not every problem you come across in Starfield is complicated, and a lot of the time I knew for sure how I wanted to handle something. But there is for sure one quest that I really thought hard about, and how I was going to finish it affected me on the inside. And even when I made my choice, I doubted myself for hours. Regarding role-playing in general, I found that the traits and background I chose when making my character did have quite a few effects on my gameplay. For example, I took the empath trait, so if my companion Sarah liked the things that I did, I would get a combat boost, but if she disliked it, I would get a debuff. This helped me care about my choices when it came to her opinions and beliefs, and I think it brought me closer to my companion Sarah overall. Not to mention, I just really love her voice. Shout out to Emily O'Brien, who did an absolutely amazing job bringing Sarah Morgan to life.
Exploration is my entire life. I consider it both a career and recreation. That being said, I will make a confession, but you have to promise to keep it between us. Before I graduated from school, I was in a band. And no, I don't mean the school band. I mean a rock band. We called ourselves Ironic Comet. A ridiculous name, I know. But we were just a bunch of teenagers getting together and having fun. And before you ask, no, I wasn't the lead singer. I actually played the drums. The band never really went anywhere, of course, but those were good times, and I remember them fondly.
The big moment in Starfield is when you arrive at New Atlantis for the first time. This is the biggest city Bethesda has ever created, and it feels alive with activities, people, and tiny details. Just seeing this space-age metropolis for the first time was enough to drop my jaw, and Starfield delivers many similar moments. However, I can say with certainty, at about 15 hours into playing the game, I knew I was in love with it. Something just clicked in my head while I was scanning planets, and I was hooked. Overall, I still consider my time with Starfield to have been short so far. I have played 60 hours, but I know I haven't even scratched the surface of what this game has to offer. The space setting really does it for me. Being able to land anywhere on a planet, survey things, build an outpost, explore, it just feels so big. As I mentioned before, we hit a boundary if you non-stop sprint for 10 minutes in one direction. But you can pick up and land right next to that location or anywhere on the planet and search another giant area. Without getting into spoilers, the story for Starfield is my favorite that Bethesda has brought to the table. The main quest constantly kept me guessing, and my initial theories proved not to be what was going on with the big picture, which made every revelation feel that much more impactful. Starfield is the first Bethesda game to include New Game Plus, and to keep with the theme of not giving spoilers, this is all I will say about it. It's a welcome feature and fits naturally into Starfield. Is Starfield worth your time? Yes. If you have never played a Bethesda game before, I think Starfield is an excellent place to start. And for returning fans of Bethesda's games, you are going to feel right at home. In the short time I have spent with Starfield, it has quickly become one of my top 5 favorite games. It offers so many things to do that I find myself just getting lost in the world for hours at a time, doing jobs, talking to the people that live in the universe, and discovering far-off lands. Starfield is something special. Bethesda's Magnum Opus, a game that Todd Howard has been wanting to make for the majority of his life. The game he dreamt of making as a starry-eyed college student just breaking into the gaming industry. And it was worth the wait. Thank you, Bethesda, for giving me the opportunity to explore this world early and share my thoughts. And for those of you still watching the video, thank you for tuning in. It means the world to me that you would even care to listen to me gush about what I am sure is going to be your next favorite game. I am excited to make videos in this new world. The amount of small details and fun curiosities to find is off the charts, and with 1,000 planets to talk about, I am positive we will be playing Starfield for years to come. So get ready to take to the stars and be prepared to explore Bethesda's largest, most charming, and epic game world yet with Starfield. I can't wait to share more things with you as the weeks pass and we start to dissect the story of the universe. See you in the Starfield. It has been Mantis.